Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers Inspiration. I'm your host, Harriet Cole. So happy to join you today. Hope you woke up today with a smile on your face. Can you say that? I can. I make it a choice, a conscious choice to do that. Now, I don't always win, but very often I do because it is a conscious choice. And I realize literally the way that you wake up in the morning can guide your steps for the rest of the day. And we can choose how we do that. And I was just thinking about how often do we make those choices just at the moment of consciousness, at the moment when we connect to our aliveness, when we connect to our awareness, and how do we look at the world? I've been thinking about this. I think about it a lot because I pay attention to the way that people interact with each other, the way that people speak. And if you pay attention to what people talk about and how they talk about it, you will get a sense of the lens through which they see the world. How do they think? How do they look at things? How do they see whatever's in front of their face? This is a really interesting exercise that you could do with friends, family, whoever it may be, if you do it without judgment. This is the thing. You cannot judge as you're doing it because then nobody wants to play the game. But pick something that you want everybody to look at. And then ask them to write down what they see. Because that way it's just them talking to themselves. Write down what you see. What do you see? How does it make you feel? What is before you? And then have each person describe whatever it is that they see and feel. And I think you will be amazed, even if it's just a tree and nothing else is there. They're going to describe that tree differently depending upon what their outlook is, how they look at what is in front of them. Some people compare. Oh, that tree is like something that I remember from my childhood. Oh, that tree is smaller than the tree in so-and-so's backyard. That tree, whatever it is. We evaluate the things that are in front of us based upon the lens through which we see them. I wanted us to talk today about how we evaluate ourselves and the lens through which we see our own being. How do you see yourself? How do you put yourself out into the world, and how do you envision this being is that you're putting out there? Who are you and what are you offering to the world? What do you see when you make that choice? And how do you look at yourself? How do you evaluate yourself? How do you think others are evaluating you? What is the measurement by which you define good, bad, neutral about yourself? How do you see yourself? Such an interesting question. I was with a number of women a couple days ago, and this is a particular issue for women, how we see ourselves. I'm not saying it doesn't happen to men too, but a lot of women have this thing. However other people see us, we often are incredibly critical of ourselves. And so there were three of us. The two other women, so I'm tall and not small. These two other women, one was petite in height and petite in size, and one was probably small, average. Both much, much shorter than I am. And all of us were looking, going, and we were in a clothing store, so we're trying on clothes, and so it's in an environment where you are to look at yourself. The level of self-criticism that I listened to was unbelievable. Oh, I can't wear this because my butt is too big. And this woman did not have a big butt. Oh, I can't wear this because whatever. It was some disqualification based upon self-perception that really, for me as an observer, had very little to do with reality. But everything is relative, right? Everything. The way that we see ourselves, the way that we naturally compare ourselves to others, and often criticize ourselves for things that are so much harsher than what reality might be. And I say reality because what is real for you may not be real for me. Not everything is cut and dry. And so I was paying attention to me. How am I showing up in this moment? How am I feeling about myself as these women are criticizing themselves? How how am I standing in my own? How can I feel the best about myself in an environment where people are, I'm telling you, super, super, super critical of themselves? And if you saw them, you would go, wow, you're beautiful. I chose to do something my mother's taught me to do, celebrate the beauty in everyone. So I complimented, honest compliments, the people who were criticizing themselves about things that I thought were truly uplifting about them. And it wasn't hard to do. And I complimented myself because I thought I looked pretty doggone good. And in this moment, I feel really good about myself and I'm claiming that. Perfect? No. Good? Yes. But how often do we do that? How often do we compare ourselves to others and then go, oh, we shrink because something is not as good as it could be. Something we're missing the mark in one way or another. We can always choose to criticize and we can always choose to uplift. My psychiatrist friend, Dr. Janet Taylor, told me that there's something about the human brain that literally tells you to look for danger, to look for negativity, to spot the bad things. That exists for you to protect yourself as a human being, as an animal, like in the world. But we live in such a sophisticated world right now. For the most part, we don't have to worry about that. So we can make the choice to see goodness in things. I always talk about my dear mother, whom I love so much. She's about to be 95 years old. Every day she chooses the positive. She hardly can walk. She's mainly in a wheelchair. She can get herself up a little bit to do certain things, but she's not complaining about that. She tells me I'm doing the best with what I've got left. She is choosing to be her best at this age and state and not complain. So, what are we complaining about? This is what I say to myself. Why am I complaining if my mom is not complaining? How can I choose to look through the lens of goodness and greatness for me and others? It's a choice. Like I said this morning, I woke up and chose joy. Now, I don't know how many of you watched the Democratic National Convention, and this is not an endorsement just because I could make an endorsement, but I don't because I am a journalist and I'm supposed to remain neutral. But I can talk about what we saw and what was incredibly beautiful to me. The choice throughout the convention to choose joy. The word joy. When have you heard joy in politics? To choose joy. To choose to ride on the beautiful wave of joy. Life is sweeter when you choose joy. People have genuine smiles when they choose joy. Your heart opens when you choose joy. It is true. I mean, I'm going to have to look up the scientific part about this. Now I'll call Dr. Janet and ask her to give me some input on this. But I'm sure that there's some medical scientific information to support this. When you look at the world through a loving lens, what do you get back? Love. When you choose to see the best in others and in yourself, you can have an uplifted experience. When you choose to be negative and talk about people and degrade yourself, it pulls you down. Now, I have been in the company of people I love recently who choose negative, who look through a lens of criticism, who enjoy talking about people. That's really hard for me because that is not the way that I want to live my life. That is not the energy that I want to have around me. And, on the one hand, you want to love people for who they are no matter what. And on the other, you want to protect your soul from negativity. And so I've been in that space of feeling the need to put on a certain kind of armor, like spiritual armor, because there was a lot of negativity, a lot of literally talking about people going on. And so I would throw up the shield. No, don't do that. Why are you doing that? How is this beneficial to others? Why? And we can't always get the answer to why, I realize. That answer doesn't always come. What we can do, though, especially if we care about people, is to push back, to challenge them. Why is this what you're thinking right now? How is this beneficial? What is the bigger thought? What can you do? What can we do to support other people so that wherever you think there's a deficiency, we can help uplift them? And honestly, I truly, truly believe that it starts here. It starts with us. That's why I entitled today's inspiration, Be Your Best. Now, that can mean a lot of things. Like, I grew up in a household, I've told you before, if you've tuned in before, where my father said excellence is the only option. I brought home a 98 on a test. I think I was in the 7th grade. And he said, where are the other 2 points? And he was not smiling. Excellence is the only option. So there was this push in my growing up household for absolute excellence only. I definitely have lived by that, but also over the years have softened my approach to include being your best, being tender with yourself, loving yourself. As my dear friend says, giving yourself a hug. How can I be kind to myself and be my best? How can I stop making comparisons? Is my best my personal best? Or am I comparing myself to somebody else? This is an interesting challenge. So I'm in my happy place. I love when I'm here. And this season is almost over. So I'm soaking up every single moment like a squirrel. I'm soaking it up. So when I leave, I keep that energy with me wherever I go. Also, in this place, there's a tremendous amount of wealth. There's a tremendous amount of opulence. And, I'm not living at the top of that. I'm in the flow, but I'm not living at the top of that. And it's very easy to look around and go, wow, if I compare myself to this one or that one or that one, then maybe I could feel small. When you compare yourself to others and you consider that your best needs to be like theirs, best works if I'm like that person over there, or if my life is like that person's over there. That is dangerous. That's when the red lights need to be flashing. You're like, no, no, no. Internal lights saying, no, stop. Comparing yourself to others can be your detriment, can rip your heart out, can make you feel less than. Being inspired by others, beautiful. Being diminished by others, tragic. And so let's look at the quote that I found for today. I always like to have the message of the day anchored by a quote. And this one is from Judy Garland, the actress from many moons ago. She said, always be a first-rate version of yourself instead of a second-rate version of somebody else. Isn't that good? Always be a first-rate version of yourself instead of a second-rate version of somebody else. So that's what I'm getting at. This idea that people have of keeping up with the Joneses, of comparing themselves to other people and wanting to emulate other people. And, well, if I get to where that person is, then I'm going to be great. If I get to this place, then I'm going to be great. The if I get to that if part, that means you're not great until you get to the end of the yellow brick road. Sorry. The journey of life is what we are supposed to be enjoying. At least that is what I've learned. Savoring, living, and being in the moment of this journey. That is what makes life sweet. That's what makes life real. If you're always looking to get somewhere, what's happening on the way? And so Judy Garland says, always be a first-rate version of yourself. Like my dad said, excellence is the only option, but let that excellence be personal excellence, not comparative excellence. Be a first-rate version of yourself instead of a second-rate version of somebody else. So what does that mean? If you strive to be like that one or that one, first of all, they are authentically themselves. How can you be better than they are, as they are? They get to be themselves. You get to be yourself. It's so much easier to be you. It might not feel like it, but it is. As I am maturing and paying attention and meditating and reflecting on what works and doesn't work in my life, a number of things have bubbled up, including every time I feel that thing inside, well, if only I could do like that one. If only I could, whatever it is, where I am not. If only I, that's the blinking light to tell you stop. That's what'll take you to that second-rate version of somebody else. The turn inward, pivot to you. It says, what can I do for me to help grow me? So I'll give you another example of something that happened for me that was inspired by something that I saw. And, I give these examples of me and other people hoping that it will inspire you for your life, not just to tell a story about myself. So some of you may remember that some years ago, for about 10 years, I had an accessories line called 108 Stitches. It was a hand crocheted line, beautiful fibers. And I called it 108 Stitches because if you practice meditation, there are 108 beads on the meditation mala, on the beads that you move as you verbally or silently repeat a mantra. Anyway, I think of crochet as a meditation, and so I named it that. And in the beginning, everything I made was 108 stitches wide. Then I realized it didn't have to be that literal, but it's inspired by meditation. Anyway, I did this line for years. And I was primarily the one making everything. I had a little bit of help, and it was a lot of work, a lot. And ultimately, I paused. Well, I was in a store this summer, and I saw a beautiful hand crocheted bag and saw it was very well priced and very well liked by the customers in the store. So why am I telling this? When I first saw it, I was like, wow, this reminds me of 108 Stitches. It doesn't look anything like it, but it's crocheted and with fine fibers. I could have had the thought, wow, I stopped. Why did I stop? Look, somebody's doing this and it's doing really well. I didn't. I'm proud of myself. What I did instead, after looking and watching other people look at this particular thing and saw someone buy it, it's time for me to relaunch. It's time for me to relaunch what I've done that I loved so much, that gave me joy, that gave other people joy. And so I decided I'm relaunching that part of my business. It could easily have been a different thought. I could have easily beaten myself up. I could have been envious of whoever it was who made that bag. And I just decided I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do instead is do me, be my best, re engage this creative part of my being that I had put on pause. I never said it was over. I just said it's on pause. I can't even tell you how much yarn I have. I remember my friend Suzanne came to my office one time when I was in full production. And never mind, I didn't stop doing the coaching and all the public speaking and all the other work that I do. But I had so much yarn, so much yarn. So even as, and not just yarn, like really wonderful fibers like suede, silk, sari silk, cashmere, luxury fibers. And she said, I don't know what you're going to do with all this stuff. Well, I used a lot of it, but I still have some. I'm excited. I'm reinvigorated by my own creativity rather than comparing myself to whoever that was who made that bag that's in store right now. Not feeling jealous, but feeling inspired. This is what I want for you. Be inspired by what is happening in your world and turn it around and let it feed your spirit. Let it feed your soul. Let it feed your heart. Let it feed the abundance that is yours. So many of us worry, and I am one of those as an entrepreneur for many, many years. Things go up and down. And so there are times when I worry and go, oh boy, will there be enough resources for all the things that I need to support? And I work very hard when I have those thoughts to pull them back, go inside, and look for answers for what's next. And imagine that this beautiful thing that I'm going to say I've made well over 1,000 of these beautiful pieces over about 10 years. And I know they're hugging a lot of people and they were made with love. And so I'm going to do it again. So I ask you, what is it that's inside of you that may have been inspired by something you saw this week, this weekend, this summer, this year, today, when you leave this broadcast? What is inspiring you that can help you to be your best? What do you see through a lens of optimism? What do you see in your world that can inspire you to be your best? Do you hear that? It is not what makes you envious. It is not what makes you mad because that person has it and you don't. It's none of that. It's what do you see? Have you witnessed that can be the spark for something great for you? So that you're not trying to be like whoever else. You're that is not the energy at all. You're not comparing or trying to do that, be that, because if you do that or be that, then something else is going to happen. That's not what you're doing. You are being inspired by what you see. I talked to a number of artists and fashion designers because this was about fashion. And they often are finding things that are inspiration just out in the world. It could be something from nature. It could be something, a garment that somebody else made. And I know sometimes they'll buy it and study it, not to copy it, hopefully. But what can they learn from what they've seen that can inform what they're doing and make them better? This is, I want to say, not the easiest thing for us to unpack, but I think it's worth it. Like, we don't want to copy others. I'm going to say, I don't want to, and I don't want you to. Judy Garland is suggesting that rather than doing that, be your best possible self. And you can and should be inspired by everything around you. You can be inspired to do something like what you see or not to. Like what I mentioned the people in my world who are negative, that inspires me to be less negative. It saddens me when people are negative, but also for me to sharpen my lens to say, I don't have to do that. I don't have to participate in that. I don't want to think like that. The inspiration from things that are negative sometimes is to just dig in more deeply with the positive. That message of joy that we just received during the DNC, during the convention, is a message that we can share with everyone. Choose joy. Choose joy. Look through a lens of joy and see what comes. When you look at your life and your world with a soft gaze, with a smile on your face, what do you see? When you see something that troubles you, maybe your heart opens a little bit and you want to help. When you see something that inspires you, I want you to turn that inspiration inward and figure out what inspires you to be your best self. Not important, not what pulls you down because you feel, oh, I missed out on that. I wish I had done something better. I wish. If only. Let's dissolve the if onlys. Let's remove that from our vocabulary and instead adopt the attitude of potential and action. So, and I say that because another way that we can get frustrated is if we get inspired, we see something, we want to do it, this is a great idea, and then we don't do anything. We forget. We didn't write it down. Oops, a year went by and you're like, oh, I said I was going to do that thing and I didn't do it. Write it down. Make a decision to take action. I am going to do this. I've said many times, 1 hour a day, if you work on your dream 1 hour a day, you will manifest something. If you work on it 1 hour a day and at the end of a week, you go back and look, how did I do? What did I do? What did I learn? At the end of another week, how did I do? What did I do? What did I learn? When you take action, you get results. Don't know what the results will be. Sometimes you learn this is a great idea. Sometimes you learn, not such a great idea. I need to do something else. But if you don't take action, all you learn is that you were inactive. And that, my friends, can be one of the most frustrating things in the world. You tell yourself you're going to do something and then you don't do it. Procrastination is a killer of the spirit. Let's not procrastinate. Let's take action. Let's choose to be our best. Let's choose to be inspired by everything that's happening in our world, inspired to greatness. When we see something we don't like, what can it inspire us to do to be better? When we see something wonderful that someone else is doing, how can it inspire us to be better? Please do not make the mistake of being envious, of having FOMO, fear of missing out, of feeling like, oh my goodness, I'm not as good as. The if only, let those go, please. Instead, be inspired. Instead, choose to leap into your greatness. Choose to be your best. Choose to work on it every day. It's a muscle that you can develop. And when it gets strong, you're like, yes, I wake up in the morning and I feel good. I choose joy. Will you choose joy with me? Will you choose to be your best today and every day and throughout the day? It works. It's sweet. It makes you smile. It makes other people smile. Joy. Choose joy. Until next time, have a great day and make it count. Namaste.